Hi, and welcome to Dietless Living 360 Degrees, Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles with me, your host, Katie Gordon. As a dietless living expert and weight loss coach, I help my clients to overcome their weight loss obstacles so they can lose weight their way and lose weight for life. Because it's the challenges and obstacles that we face that have the biggest impact on our health and our weight. Because when the pressure's on, when we're under stress, or when we're just plain old flat out busy, that's when all our health habits fly out the window. Because it's how we deal with our emotional responses in those times that has the greatest impact on our health, weight, and happiness. And how to overcome weight loss obstacles provides a framework that you need to build your personal health leadership skills so that you can have cognitive control through those challenging times and not only maintain your healthy habits, but build on them. And with that in mind, I bring in special guests to talk about their greatest obstacles and challenges and how it's affected their health, their weight, and their happiness, and how they actually picked themselves up and got themselves back on track, and the lessons that they learned along the way. And today we have the wonderful Debbie Bryan, who's come onto the show. So welcome to the show, Debbie. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here.
It's so great. And you're sitting in France at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm sitting here in France. I'm very lucky that we have a house here in France. So just come over this week. The weather is fantastic and just trying to have a little bit of relaxation.
Nice, because it's so important to have some relaxation. And Debbie, you have a great story to tell of a life-threatening situation, which is such a
Mhm.
perfect fit for this podcast. But before we launch into all of that, if it's all right with you, I'd really like to take a look at life before the accident, sort of, so that we can set the scene a little bit for the story. Because sometimes when the stories begin to unfold naturally, it just makes them more compelling. And I think there's so many elements, because I've heard your story and that's why you're on the show. But I think there's some elements that I'd like to, if it's okay with you, to
Yeah, sure.
before we get into that. So maybe, because some of the things that we have in our life, especially around big events, we tell the story quite a few times, especially to ourselves, but we've certainly
Mhm.
we share it with a lot of people. And I know you share it with a lot of people because that's how you help people to move themselves forward out of the quagmires that they get stuck into. So, Debbie, can you just sort of take us back a little bit and actually just tell me how long ago it was that the accident occurred and what was happening in your life prior to that life-changing moment? What were you doing and how were you living in your life?
So it was just over 11 years ago that I had an accident. And at that time, I had a hair salon in a gym, quite a high-end gym. So I'd just taken over the hair salon myself. My business partner had decided that she wanted to do something else. So I just relaunched it, I've renamed it, I redecorated it. So it's my own salon. It's like a lifetime dream, really, to have your own salon from when I started hairdressing at 14 as a Saturday girl. And it was in a gym. So, everybody was either running a class, going to a class, or Skyping from a class, sitting in my salon and pretending they were too busy to go. So for me, I've always really loved fitness. I love like feeling strong. And I'd be cutting someone's hair and I would have changed into my body pump stuff before the last customer had come in and he'd go and we'd run upstairs and go and do body pump and then come back down and sweep up. Or I would cycle to work it was a very active lifestyle and it was lovely. It was just really lovely people. Everybody was so positive. I since found out that like only 27% of the nation go to the gym, but really 90% of my world was gym people. And so I was in a really, really good place. I was in, that was my dream, was to have the hair salon. It wasn't wildly about money. It was just about the creativity of the hairdressing, how, you can come in, someone could come in having a bad day and you can change their life.
Yeah.
You can actually say, send them out, and you know, they've got a different spin on life. They feel amazing. And that was one of the joys that I had. And I suppose that's kind of where that's evolved now into coaching, a little bit less physical. So that's where I was.
And what a great job, right? You've got your salon in the gym, so there's no time lapse between gym and work. Like, that really does sound like a fabulous lifestyle.
It was a fabulous lifestyle, and you know, it's like a part of the David Lloyd chain. So it was very much a leisure club. You know, I could leave my salon and walk down to the changing rooms to use the toilet and pick up 4 or 5 customers along the way. It was very social, very chatty, it was just beautiful. You know, 5 stars, great ambience. So I was very lucky.
And then that moment came with the accident. So how long had you had your salon by the time that, like, you'd only just had you started your salon, or you'd got it going?
No, we'd had the salon for I think about 3 or 4 years at that stage. But my business partner at the time, she had gone through a lifestyle change, and she had younger children than me, and I wanted to grow the salon and she didn't really want to. She wanted to still be mum. So we just, I took over the salon as a sole owner. And then renamed it. We had a competition, we had a big opening with a footballer there to open it and everything. So everything was like really buzzing. And we'd had Christmas. Christmas was obviously very good for hairdressing, but in a gym, it's very different. In that January is actually brilliant for hairdressing as well, because everybody's got their New Year's resolutions that they're hitting the gym. So they come in and you get, they're coming in and all having their hair chopped off. They're all changing themselves and stuff. So yeah, it's still a buzzy month. January. It's odd in hairdressing for it to be like that, but yeah, still good. And then I decided that we needed to buy a car from the other end of the country, and then that was the decision that changed my life. So
so let's go there then. So it was January and you decided to buy a car. So walk us through what happened.
So I bought a car off of eBay. We've been driving company cars up until then, but there was a real thing on the mileage, and I don't like being controlled. So to get in my car and worry about how much miles, I just decided we'd go and buy a car. So I found this little convertible a few miles away from us, about 40 miles away, bought it, and my husband and I went to get the car. We drove up in a beautiful BMW, which is a car that they'd given us, and then we bought this really a little old banger. You know, it was a cheap car, but it was ours, and we didn't have to worry about mileage or all the other things you do when you've got a company car. So we went and got it, and then I was driving the BMW back, and my husband was driving the other car, and I decided that actually it would be a nicer treat for him to go and pick children up in the nice car, and I'd drive the other one. So we swapped. And we'd driven, you know, 35 miles or so, and we swapped, and the car was absolutely fine. I got in it and got onto the dual carriageway, and the power just went out of the car. I was in the lane, and there's just no power. And it's, you know, it's 7 o'clock on a Monday night in January. It's cold, it's dark, it's been raining. I was quite lucky. I managed to get the car over to the side of the road. So I drifted across 2 lanes, and I got to that. And so I was like, okay, I don't understand what's happened. The car was fine. Maybe we've run out of petrol. So I phoned my husband, and to be honest, all I was worried about was I had 1 bar left on my phone. And that was it. I wasn't worried about where I was on the side of the road. I felt like I was in a safe place. So my husband then went off to get some petrol from the petrol station, came back, parked behind me, and I jumped out of the car to open the petrol cap. And as I did, I looked back, and I was a bit annoyed with him, to be honest, because he parked quite far away from me. And I thought, what are you doing? And as I looked at him, a car drove into the back of his car and shunted the car forward. And I thought, well, that's just a little bit odd. But within seconds, that car carried on coming. And at the time, I didn't realise, but it had ripped one of the wheels out. And so it was on 3 wheels. And I was stood by my car thinking, this side is dual carriageway, and this side is where I think the car's going, is this way. I think it's going to the grass. So I had nowhere to go. I literally had nowhere to go. And so I just thought, I'm going to die. I'm going to die, and there's nowhere for me to go. And for a couple of seconds, I don't know, maybe not seconds. It felt like a long time, but it obviously wasn't a long time.
I'm slow to run in those moments, doesn't it? People really just stretch out.
It just felt like now it feels like it was minutes. I had all this time to have a conversation with myself. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to die. This car's going to hit me. And then I just thought, no, I'm not. I'm not going anywhere. My boys are not old enough. They think they're ready and they're not ready. And I'm not going. And somehow I took a couple of steps. So I took those 2 steps. And actually the car did hit exactly where I was. It cuffed me. It's a funny word, but it kind of brushed against me. So I was still stood up after the car had hit me, but I felt like I was stood on ice. I felt like, my legs just didn't want to work.
Yeah.
And then as it went, the back of the car went through, hit my shoulder and winded me. And I ended up on all fours in the road. And I could feel all the indicator and smashed up bits of the car. And I just looked to the side and I thought, oh, bugger, I'm gonna die. I'm actually in the road on a dual carriageway. So I was like, I had to crawl to the side of the road because I just thought another car was going to come along and that would be the end of it. I was like, I survived this one and now I'm going to get hit again. So I crawled to the side of the road. What I didn't realise is that there was a van driver who'd seen what was happening and had started to slow down, and he actually stopped the traffic. And he's the person that came to the hospital the next day and said to me, those 2 steps you took saved your life.
Yeah.
They hit my car with such a force that instead of pushing it further into the dual carriage, it flipped it and it actually went into the central reservation and his car too.
Yeah.
So, but there was no blood. I don't think I'd broken a nail. I had a little cut on my hand, and I just knew that I couldn't land on the leg. That was it, really.
And so what was the injury then? It was broken knees or something, was it?
Yeah, it's got it's got a very medical bicondylar something. But what it done had smashed my right leg into the kneecap was smashed, and then all the shin bones were smashed. So the result of that was that I had ended up with 2 plates and 22 screws to hold my leg together.
Yeah.
And permanent damage with it. But at that time, I didn't really know. And at that time, I just thought it was bruised because there wasn't lots of blood. When they told me I had a broken leg, I just thought, oh, wow, people get broken legs and they're off for 6 weeks and then they come back and that's fine. And I was, to be honest, I was so euphoric that I wasn't dead.
Yeah.
Nothing else really mattered. I was just very much like, I'm the luckiest person in the world, which is mad, I know, but that's how I felt.
Well, and that's the good thing, right? Because you saw the sunny side of it. You understood that you got, or whilst it wasn't a good hand to be dealt, it was certainly better than the alternative.
Absolutely. And to be honest, in the hospital, the porters would be wheeling me around and sort of pour you, and I'm like, no, don't pour me. I'm the luckiest person. I should be down in the morgue, and I'm up here. And I think they just thought I was mental. To be honest, they probably thought, God, what's the matter with this girl? But I literally was, I was a survivor. I survived. So and it wasn't really, I don't know.
What was the recovery time on all of that then? So, because plates and screws and things like that, I know they're difficult. They don't always go the way they should. They don't always heal as well as they should. And they're more tricky to get rehabilitated sometimes, especially for walking, if they're in your knees and that sort of thing. So what was the kind of recovery time on that? And did you have to go through a lot of physio and that sort of thing?
So the recovery time was much, much longer than I thought it was going to be. My manager came into the hospital and I asked her to put my clients on for 2 weeks. And I know she looked at me like I was crazy, and I would just thought that I would lose my business. I thought I'm going to lose my business and lose my stuff because everybody else was part-time. So I said 2 weeks, and she said, are you sure 2 weeks? And I was like, do you think that's too long? I literally had no idea what was coming. I had no idea. And do you know what? I'm kind of glad, because I don't think I would have coped. I coped day by day.
Yeah.
And so my recovery was, it took them a week to operate because the leg was so badly swollen, and they kept giving me really rubbish scenarios. They kept coming in and saying, so we're going to do this to the leg, but you won't be able to use the leg. And I would just I don't even know how I did it now, but I just would say, no, you can't do that. I'm a hairdresser. I've got a salon. I've got children. And they come back the next day and they say, okay, we're going to do this, but you won't be able to use the knee. And so this happened for 3 or 4 days. And then they came back with their solution. And I was like, okay. So I had the operation. I went home a week later because my husband wasn't euphoric. He'd seen the worst case scenario, not the other scenario. And he was really struggling to cope. And they said I could go home. But I actually couldn't put weight on my leg until July. So it was a lot longer than 2 weeks. It was 6 months,
Yeah.
non-weight bearing. And then when it came to July, I then had to learn to walk without a limp, had to have some strength. We went on holiday in July. I took a mobility scooter with me to Egypt, which all the waiters stole. But I couldn't walk at any distance. I didn't really have any strength in the knee for balance.
So
And like even now,
sorry to interrupt. What did you do between the January and the July? Was it just you just could not do any weight bearing walk like you were?
no weight bearing at all.
So
None
you
at
were
all.
basically, what happened with your salon and all of that?
So with the salon, my clients moved over to my manager and everybody else, and it was fine. In the beginning, I would go into the salon and be a bit of a nuisance. They'd wash my hair, blow dry it, and put me in a taxi and send me home. But then I started working on the marketing of the salon.
Yeah.
One of my friends was amazing. She was waiting to go into her own salon, been working from home, and she took all of her clients into my salon and just oversaw like the staff. So there was someone there to help and someone to answer any questions.
Yeah.
And then I would then eventually, after about 3 months, I'd go in on the days that she was there and I started answering the phone. Like, everyone says you need a receptionist and most hairdressers will pay for a receptionist, but it made a huge difference, me being on the phone, being able to have the time to chat, being able to have the time to say, hey, you're not due for your colour. And they go, oh, yeah, but I didn't think you fit me in. So I realised the age-old saying of like, you should be working on your business and not in your business is a harsh lesson to learn. And I wouldn't advocate for anyone to go and smash their legs up to do it. But it's true, that's how I got into the marketing. That's how I got into promoting the salon. I had a blog, Hairdresser with a Broken Leg, and then another hairdresser from London contacted me and she said, oh, I'm a hairdresser with a broken leg too. And so I just promoted the business and really, really went into the marketing. I didn't go back to hairdressing until September. And then I took a few clients back. A lot of them stayed with the other girls, which was absolutely great. But I was wearing a metal brace on my leg. So I wore a metal brace for about 3 years and my leg would swell so much it looked like a mushroom over the top of the straps.
Is that
so
because it just wasn't healing properly, or was there other damage in there?
Because of the damage. It was just because of the damage. So it healed fairly, they were happy with it and they're really happy with it now. But it was so painful, to just. And that's, I suppose, I hid this for a long time from a lot of people. So I would work 9 till 3 on a Saturday, and I'd go home and crawl up the stairs and go to bed and just elevate my leg and not get back out of bed until 7, 8 o'clock in the evening because I'd be trying to get the swelling down, or it'd be so much discomfort. I mean, all the time I was on crutches, I couldn't even go up the stairs. I went up the stairs for 6 months on my bum because the first time I tried to go up the stairs, I fell down.
Yeah.
And I fell back onto the neck that was damaged. And so I never got that confidence to go back up. Even at Wembley, I ended up having an argument with somebody at Wembley to say, look, I can't go up the stairs. And she, I wrote to the CEO of Wembley. I wrote to every director when I was traveling up there, saying I need a ticket for somewhere else. And I managed to get hold of a guy. He's like, how did you get hold of my email address? Because it was on the internet. And he managed to get the tickets for me. But it's a real eye opener for, I'm lucky that my disability isn't something that's stopped me forever, but it could have done. And so it's a real eye opener of just how difficult it is for people, how difficult it is for people to do public stuff. So, and eventually I carried on hairdressing. It was always painful. I could go to weddings and dance and would have to be in bed for 2 or 3 days after that. I kind of was like, oh, it's worth it for the hip. But eventually I went to see the specialist and they said, if I carried on with what I was doing, I'd be in a wheelchair at 55.
Wow, that's not good news.
No, it was not good news at all. But I was just like, no, it's not going to happen to me. So I carried on hairdressing for another year after that. Then my body started to really fight with me. I ended up with a bad back, which I'd never had, and different things. And I just thought, I have to change. I have to change some stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to be in that wheelchair. So I've had 10 years of knowing at 55, which I'm now, that that's the prognosis, is that you're
Yeah.
going to get worse and then be in the wheelchair. So
So what were the other knock-on effects to your health from having had the accident, not being able, obviously you weren't being able to go do your gym and all your exercise, and you obviously spent a bit of time in recuperation, but then, you had, 5 months or something convalescing where you couldn't, and then I imagine you didn't just get up and you'd be skippy and dance around. So what was the actual, because you said it about your husband, right? He didn't see the first alternative of what you saw, which made you kind of happy and go, hey, I'm a survivor. This is good. This is the good outcome. But so your husband didn't see that. So he was obviously very stressed. You said that earlier. And, there would have been financial stress that go with it all, emotional stress, just the whole kit and caboodle, because it's a shock and it's incapacitating. There's a lot of changes. So how did that all really, what was the knock-on effect in your health and between you and your husband and your kids?
So the knock-on effect was that I had this beautiful salon. It was only small, in a place that I didn't fit in anymore. I didn't fit into the gym, and the long term was that I wasn't ever really going to fit into the gym. I've never really more than twice been back to body pump, even now, and that was one of the passions I've had. Is that I just didn't fit in anymore, and I felt like I just wasn't part of that world.
Yeah.
My husband was angry. He was angry at the guy that hit me. He was angry at the situation. He was angry that he didn't stop it, like all sorts of anger. And then my children had obviously nearly seen their mum died. So in terms of how difficult, it was horrendously difficult. I was so fearful to get back in a car or even to cross the road.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if it happened again, I had literally nothing left. I
Yeah.
had no reserves left. I used every single bit of like strength, determination, madness to just get through.
Yeah.
I was quite stoic with the physio. So if she said to me, bend your leg all weekend, then I would bend my leg all weekend. I was so determined that if I just did as I was told, which I don't ever do,
Yeah.
but I was so much like, if I just do what she tells me to do, then I'll get back to where I want to be and I'll get back to normal. And I always thought that normal was an option for me, that I just had to just follow the instructions and do exactly what they said. But there was a lot of arguments. I wasn't a good patient. I was a terrible patient. I was a mum, I had 3 children, a job, so used to doing everything. And so when they didn't second guess me, I would like chuck the potatoes across the room rather than ask somebody to get them. I'd get them out of the cupboard and they'd be like, what are you doing? Or, when you're trying to cook, so I had a stool, I could sit in the kitchen and I could do stuff, but you can't lift anything when you're on crutches. You can't lift a pan or check a potatoes.
They take up all your hands, right?
Yeah. Because you can't, and like you don't even think about that. So I would sit on my stool and make the dinner, but then when it comes to checking it and stuff, and so it was really frustrating. One of the things I did in the first stage was I went out every single day, and sometimes only for a little while I would go and use the little scooters in the supermarket or something like that.
Yeah.
And just to go to a doctor, it was exhausting. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
It had to be elevated.
I imagine that really does suck your energy, right? Apart from the fact that your body's sending a lot of your energy through to healing, trying to heal, because plates and screws and things take a tremendous amount of healing.
Oh, huge. But I was on a lot of painkillers as well.
Sorry?
I was taking a lot of painkillers.
Yes.
A lot. I was taking tramadol plus paracetamol plus ibuprofen. So that doesn't help your energy either because you're exhausted. My leg was triple the size that it should have been. So to even just manage, just to get, even to do stupid stuff like go to the toilet, it may be taking 10 minutes to get up the stairs. So then you'd go up and think, it's worth me coming back down. We didn't have a downstairs toilet then. We had 3 upstairs, but we don't have 1 downstairs. So even stuff like that, I can remember a friend visiting me at like 10:30 at night, and I'd been waiting for my husband to come in so I could go to the toilet, and I didn't want to talk to him because I knew if I went up to the toilet I wasn't going to come back down again. It was 10:30. So there's loads of stuff, like clothes, shoes, taxis. You know, my husband went back to work. I would get a taxi to take me to, and I didn't think to tell him that I was on crutches. They sent a minibus. I couldn't get in the minibus to
Yeah.
send the taxi away. Or the taxi drivers that you all got a massive laptop bag on and your crutches and your handbag, and they don't get out of the car to help you, and it's all swinging around you. Your balance is gone.
Yeah. And you're
I
going
was
to
very lucky.
right?
Yeah. And then you've got to try and get that back to the other end into the gym. I was probably really lucky. I was quite determined. I was able to swim quite early or walk in the water
Oh,
because
good.
the gym was a part of David Lloyd,
Yeah.
and so I could go to David Lloyd. But I had to crawl in and out of the pool, you know, to
Yeah.
get in and to get out. And that's poolside on crutches is quite frightening, to be honest, because it's wet.
It's a
So
bit of a slip zone, isn't
yeah,
it?
so I
And
take a
crutches
walking
are
crutch.
not known for their stability, to be
No,
honest.
so and like I had to have that stability, but
Yeah.
I tried everything. I tried everything I could do to be as physical as I possibly could.
Yeah.
You know, I did the walking in the water, I did the exercises, I did everything. So to then get a diagnosis to be told that actually you're still going to be in a wheelchair. I mean, I wore out my left knee. I put so much pressure on my
Yeah.
left knee.
Yeah,
I wore
because
that down.
you've got to compensate, right? And that's the
Yeah.
thing.
So that became bone on bone cartilage. And so then I now have a partial knee replacement. I'm like too young to have a knee replacement. It's the only thing I'm too young for, I think. But I pushed for it because I couldn't walk without pain
Yeah.
at all, you know. So I had more pain in the left knee than I did in the right knee in the end.
And how are
Uh,
your knees now?
so they're fairly good. They're fairly strong now. I did so after I had the knee replacement, I one day just got out of bed and walked to the bathroom, and I was so excited that I could walk, that I could just walk with no pain. I remember thinking, I'm walking. Oh my God, I'm just walking. It was just easy, and it never been easy.
Such a
I was like a
miracle.
toddler.
That's the
Honestly, it
simplest
was.
of
I was like,
things,
I'm
right?
walking. The joy, I swear to God, I can even feel it now. I was just like, I am walking. And I didn't have to hold on to anything. I have to hold on to the wall or onto the drawers or anything. I
Yeah.
could just walk from my bed to the bathroom, and I was super excited. So then obviously I signed up for the moonwalk for a 26-mile walk because I thought I'm walking. I need to keep doing this walking,
Yeah.
and I need to get stronger and I need to get fitter. So let's have a challenge. That was quite scary, to be honest, because I did it. But I always thought that I was going to be stretchered off. I was the person on the news that we would see being carried off, but we did that. And then I stopped again a little bit, not doing so much of the exercise.
Yeah.
And then I signed up for this bike ride. I think in my head the 55 thing was bigger than I realised.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm going to beat it. I'm going to beat this 55. I'm not going to be in a wheelchair. I'm no longer hairdressing. I stopped the hairdressing. I moved on to other businesses. I
Yeah.
tried to go back to some of the gym classes like body pump and stuff like that, but I can't get up and down off the floor very easily.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like the quick transitions and stuff, you know, doing press ups against the wall, and I just can't be bothered with that. I don't want to be the exception in the room.
Yeah. So let's talk about the bike ride that you're going on. How far is that and where is it? Because it's quite an impressive distance, because you're not a cyclist, are you?
No, I'm not a cyclist, and I'd actually only been to a couple of spin classes before the accident. Actually, it's terrified me. I looked at spin like for 4 years and just thought, I'm not going in that room. They look like they're dying in there.
That's what I
And then
reckon too. I'm sure they're enjoying themselves immensely, but they don't look it.
They don't look like they was enjoying themselves one bit. In fact, it's only one day I had a really bad day and had an argument with someone. And I thought, I'm going to go to the gym, and I'll go on the first class that's there. And it was a spin class, and that's the only time I got in, because I'm super angry about nothing really now when I think about it. But that's what it took to get me into that room, was to have like same day. So so after I did the moonwalk, I carried on doing little bits, and then I hadn't ridden a bike for a long time, until about 5 years ago. Not ridden a bike since before, and I used to ride to work and back. And I just thought, I wonder. And my surgeon is an absolute lover of cycling. He thinks that's the best thing for knees.
Yeah.
But I wonder, so I went and got my son's bike. My son's 28 this week, so you know it's not a little bike. But I went and got his bike, and I wheeled it over the road, and there's a path there down the side of the school.
When was this?
And this is about 5 years ago.
All
And I
right.
just got on the bike and just cycled to the end of the road. And I was like, you know when you first get your little wheels off, stabilizers.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like that. I was super, super wobbly. And then, but I just remembered that joy that when you're a kid, you just ride a bike for the sake of riding it, just to ride
yeah,
around. And that came back, that feeling of freedom, because obviously I can cycle better than I can walk.
yeah.
Realistically, I can cycle further.
But
So I started,
you're
go
now
on, sorry.
going for a bike ride though, a long bike ride to.
On that, to get back on my bike like 5 years ago and just pedal down the path. I now signed up for a bike ride around India. It's
Yeah,
360 kilometers in 5 days. Um, it's hot.
yeah.
It's India. So that's in November this year. So I'm currently training for that
Excellent. And
ish.
how's the training going?
Well, I'm in France now with no bike, so that's not good. But the training's good. We've got up to 50 miles, so we can do a 50-mile bike ride.
In a day?
There's in a day, yeah. So we do 50 miles, 45 miles or 50 miles. The training takes a lot more time than I anticipated, actually, but I've got the strength now to be able to. I mean, when we first put the schedule together and we were doing like 10 miles, 15 miles, when I looked at the 50, I thought, oh my God, that's never going to happen. So I'm really happy with myself that I've pushed
50
through.
miles,
And
that's nearly 100K in a day.
yeah. So, and our longest day when we're in India is 96K.
Yeah.
That's our longest day. So I'm
Is it with a
confident. It's just
group or is it just yourself? Are you doing it like as a
no.
charity ride or?
It's with a group. I have paid for it, but I am going to raise some money for a local radio station that help disabled people. They want to replace all their computers that are
Yeah.
like touch sensitive or voice sensitive. So I'm going to raise the money for them. In the beginning, I just wanted to do it for me because I suppose maybe I kept it quiet and didn't make a big deal about the fundraiser because I thought I couldn't do it. I thought, well, if I fail, I'll fail quietly and nobody really needs to know about it. But I'm at the stage now that it's like 8 to 9 weeks. I know, but I think that's what it was. I thought, why didn't I raise the money? Because if you raise the money, it's free. I didn't want
Yeah.
have had to pay. So
And how much
instead,
does
I
it
paid.
cost you to join, to do it?
It's 2,000, so it's
Oh,
£2,000. If you raise 4,000, then you go for free. They
yeah.
give 2,000 to the company and 2,000 goes to the charity. So I could have done that, but I think I just thought I was going to fail. I thought it's not going to happen, and I
We're
can't
quite
fail.
100% sure.
No, I have big ideas. I always have big ideas and big mindset, and I can do it. But my physicalness, I suppose,
Yeah.
that was always there to go.
Plus,
What if
there's a
halfway
lot of
through?
training. There's a lot of training that has to go into that. If you've not been a cyclist, to then go, I'm going to do, what is it, 300 and how many miles?
360 kilometers, so it's
Oh,
about
360
about
kilometers.
207 miles,
Yeah,
I
that's a
think.
lot. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot of
And
sore ass. That's
yeah,
a lot of sore muscles in your legs. It's
and
a,
that's the hard the consecutive. It's the
yeah,
consecutive.
yeah,
So cycling 5 days in a row. That's now the challenge. The distance isn't the challenge. It's getting on a saddle 5 days in a row.
yeah. And
With
doing
two
the
coaches.
distance every day. Yes.
Yeah,
That ass
doing
just
that.
gets sorer and sorer.
Absolutely. We
You do have to
my friend.
harden up the tushy.
Yes, you do. But I have a gel saddle, and you can take your saddle with you. And I've
Yeah,
got the gel shorts, and the advice is to wear 2 pairs of those.
yeah,
And so you have the gel saddle and the gel shorts, and take lots of nappy cream as well.
yeah.
So
And get in the
yeah, it's a
practice,
glamorous
right?
life.
It's
Yeah,
all the practice before you go. You've just got to be riding, excuse the pun, but you're going to be riding your ass off between now and then.
absolutely. Yeah, you do. Even, I do spin classes in between the rides. So we do the big ride, but the big
Yeah,
ride, that's 5, 6 hours that you're out. Because my
yeah,
friend that I'm training with doesn't like stopping. So we just ride. We do the
yeah.
50 miles. We don't have any stops. Whereas it's actually
You
more
don't
difficult in India
stop
because
for
we do
food or
stop.
anything?
No, we don't stop for food. We've got to build that into our training over the next 2 months because they do stop, but she finds it harder to get going after the stop because your legs
Uh,
go into recovery. So with our next rides, we like take snacks and stop, and then
yeah,
but they do. I think they do that anyway. When it's a company called Dream Challenges. They're really organised. This is what they do. They do the challenges. It's not
yeah,
a travel company that's doing this. That's what they do. There's a bus. There's a medic. There's a
yeah,
doctor. The stuff that worried me about India are the physical things. Like I don't know anybody who's been to India and not had Delhi belly. I mean,
yeah,
how does that
yeah,
work on a bike?
exactly.
That's
You
just
need to,
like I lose sleep over that.
yeah,
The mozzies, the
So
Yes, those
do you get to take your own food there, or are you going to have to try and buy the food there
they
to
provide
eat?
the food from where, no, they provide the food from where, so the snacks and stuff they do.
Okay.
So you take your own as well. So you take your own, protein bars and snacks. And
Yeah.
because if you don't have theirs, it isn't a type of place where there's just a shop on the corner.
Yeah.
It's like, if
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
like
It's
it, then
like
cut
a
that.
different territory, the unknown.
It's very much, and we travel. We start the first. So apart from our travel, we actually go to the Taj Mahal first of all. That's the first place we stop, not on the bikes. So
Yeah.
we have a trip to Taj Mahal, and then the next day we travel to our starting point and get fitted for the bikes. And then so they waste a lot of time, really. I'm like, we could be pedaling a little bit less each day. But we're going to Tiger Sanctuary, we're going to a palace, we're going to some historical village. So it's a really nice itinerary, and
Yeah. Sounds lovely.
it's an adventure.
Do you have to
Like
take your own pack, or will they carry all your kit for you, and all you've got to
put
do
it
is
all on the bus.
ride?
They put it all on the bus, so you can get on the bus. But my thing is that I don't want to ever get on the bus. So
Yeah, you want to
that's what
ride.
makes me friend is that I don't want to get on the. Well, one of my friends went to one before. She's been to Brazil, and there was a lady there called Margaret, and I don't know, she was in her 70s, or I don't know her actual age, but she was in her 70s, and she pedaled Brazil. And that was very, very hilly. And they'd come along and ask everybody if they want to get on the bus. And the mantra was like, is Margaret on the bus? And they'd say no. And so they were like, we're not getting on the bus. If Margaret's still pedaling, we're still pedaling. So
Yeah, my dad.
literally, I can't be, I got to be Margaret.
Yeah, my
So,
dad went for. My dad was in his 70s, and he went for a trek through Nepal. And he's not a person who did any exercise really at all. So for him to go for a trek off through Nepal, when he came back, how was it? How'd you go? And he went, well, there was a lady there who was a little bit older than me with iron knees. He said, so every day he got up and he went, oh, I don't know. He goes, bit like your Margaret. Yeah, she's walking. I have to as well.
walking, yeah.
Yeah. Can't be sitting at
thing.
home while the lady with the iron knees is walking.
Exactly. You can't, somebody in their 70s can do this. That's mind over matter. That's pure mindset. She's done it every year. I don't know if she's coming on this trip, but that's our thing. It's like, Margaret's not on the bus, we're not on the bus. And I know that so I met a boxer last year called Amy, I can't remember her second name, but I met her, and she'd started boxing later in life. And one of the questions that they asked her, which she was speaking, was, what motivates you to get out and do the hill runs in the morning?
Yeah.
And she said, nothing motivates me to get out and do
I
hill
want
run. Yeah, well, no, she just said, but what I do know is if I don't prepare, when I get in the ring, I'm A, going to be embarrassed, and B, I'm going to get beat.
Yeah.
I'm going to get beaten up. And so that she said that's what gets her up, because if she's not prepared properly, then she's ultimately going to lose.
Yeah.
So there's no point in going into the fight. So I'm a bit like, that's why that stuck with me a lot.
She has the ability to future pace herself to, I can either stay in bed and not do it, or I can have a really bad fight. Yeah.
And her outcome wasn't getting on the bus, so she's actually going to get beat. She's a boxer, she's going to get punched in the face if she doesn't get up and has the fitness to be able to run away. And that really, really stuck and resonated with me for lots of things, really, but especially for this one, when I'm getting up in the heat at 6 a.m. to go and do a bike ride on a Sunday morning, which means that I haven't gone out on Saturday night and I've missed a party, or I've missed a barbecue, or my friends are coming home 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm in bed by 9 o'clock because I'm getting up to do that. So that's helped me there a lot.
Wish you so much luck with that, and we will be following you when you go on that. And we're sort of getting close to running out of time here, so I just wanted to ask you, what do you do for fun and what do you do to relax?
So for fun, really, I just go and get my granddaughter. I've got a 3-year-old granddaughter, and we have a tea party. So if we fill up the cups and we sit and have a little tea party, and she loves it. And it's just water. So I do that for fun. And to relax, I ride the bike, actually, because I find I have a really, really busy mind. And when I'm cycling, I just cycle. The thoughts just come and go. I used to do it swimming, and I've stopped with the swimming, but I just get on the bike and ride around the streets and listen to a podcast or listen to some music, and that relaxes me.
Nice one. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing everything, Debbie. We're going to add your contact details underneath. They're probably sitting there right now while we're talking. And if anyone wants to connect with you and follow your story as you ride through India, because I'm sure we'll see some of that on social media through the actual adventure. I really do look forward to seeing it. And so thanks again for coming on the show today. It has absolutely been a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for sharing so much about your life-changing event, because that sort of shit happens to people every bloody day.
Yeah,
And it's just so important to understand the impact that it has on life and how to overcome those obstacles and just say no, like you did, to the whatever the diagnoses are or the recommendations, that we can have a voice and we can say no to doctors and we can say, hey, I think you can rethink again. This is my life that you're talking about. So like, I just love that that's what you did, that you told them at least 3 times, sorry, that's a no. You're going to have to go.
yeah. I can't believe I did it. Now, when I look back now, I was just thought that's insane. That
Yeah.
is insane. So, but I do think it's important that people do get to realise that actually they're gonna give you the worst case scenario. That doesn't have to be your future. You
Well,
don't have to decide that it's your future.
yeah.
They just because they told you that there's a
Exactly. And
better
look,
case scenario.
they came back to you eventually with a better solution. So make them work hard for that, because just because the one they came up with in the first place doesn't mean it's the only one. It's just the one that they're thinking they can do right there and then. So I really do thank you for sharing all of that, because it is so vitally important for people to understand. They do have a voice and they do have a choice. And thank
100%.
you to everybody who's watching and listening today. If you need help overcoming your challenges in your life that are impacting on your health and weight and happiness, please just send me an email. Let's get it just sorted out for you right now. And so that you can just get on and enjoy the life that you've been looking for. And please subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, and do connect with Debbie and follow her story as she cycles around India in November. Wonderful. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Bye.